Hello and welcome to December's episode of ScotlandShop on the Sofa. This month we've been exploring all things Clan Scot, and it's been a pleasure to find out more about this powerful, high-achieving clan. While we have done our best to research Clan Scot, we are not experts. Please let us know if there's anything you think we've got wrong or if we've missed anything out. We'd also love to hear from you if you have a link to Clan Scot. Reach out in the comments or drop us a message and let us know what being part of the clan and sharing its heritage means to you.
As always, we'd like to start at the beginning with a bit about the birth of the clan. The name Scot comes from the Latin word Scotti, which originally was used to refer to the Irish Celts and later became associated with the Gaelic people more generally. Interestingly, however, in George Black's Touchstone book, The Surnames of Scotland, he notes that the earliest recorded Scot, Uchtred Filius, had a notably Saxon-sounding name, suggesting that the family perhaps had roots in Northumberland, England, rather than where they eventually built their fearsome reputation in the Scottish borders.
Despite this, the clan can officially be traced back to the 12th century, when they settled in a small Scottish town called Peebles, not far from here, and around 20 miles outside of Edinburgh. They ruled the lands in Peeblesshire so effectively that they were soon restless and became eager to expand their territory. They journeyed further onto the borders and acquiring land in Roxburghshire, Eskdale and Liddesdale. In the 13th century, one of Uchtred's descendants, Sir Richard Scot, a little bit easier to pronounce I would say, married the heiress of Merthistone, which secured him the land of Rankleburn, strengthening the Scots' hold over the borders even further. Sir Richard also gained the prestigious title of Ranger of Ettrick Forest and built a grand home at Buccleuch, after which the estates became known as the Buccleuch name.
Interesting.
Yeah. This made Sir Richard the first Lord of Buccleuch. In the 1400s, the 6th Lord of Buccleuch showed the striving and ambitious nature typical of Clan Scot by trading Merthic stone for a more profitable land in Braxton. And by the end of the 15th century, the Scots were undeniably among the most powerful and fearsome of the border clans.
Having had a brief look at the early beginnings of the clan, we'd now like to explore their lands and specifically their grand castles in a bit more depth. It seems right to start with the clan's historic seat of Dalkeith Palace. Interestingly, although it dates all the way back to the 12th century, it only became the residency for Dukes of Buccleuch in 1642, which we think demonstrates the Scots' striving nature perfectly. Throughout history, they have shown a cunning knack for picking up land and power wherever they go. Dalkeith passed hands frequently and had many important owners including Clan Graham and Clan Douglas until the Earl of Morton sold the palace to Francis Scot, the second Duke of Buccleuch, in 1642. The Scots quickly set about making Dalkeith their own and hired the contemporary leading architect James Smith to redesign the place, supposedly based on William the Orange's Het Loo in the Netherlands. They love a wee designer, don't they? Is James Smith not one we've heard before too? It was completed by 1711 and Clan Scot had firmly staked their claim.
Later generations of the family continued to alter and improve the estate. In 1792, Henry, the 3rd Duke of Buccleuch, commissioned Robert Adam to design a stunning Montague bridge as a present to his wife, Lady Elizabeth Montague. The bridge was meant to commemorate the joining of the two powerful families, the Scots and the Montagues. They also served as a striking status symbol, as it frames the palace from the road, drawing the eye of onlookers, and surely provoking admiration and envy. The 5th Duke of Buccleuch, Walter Francis, also worked to make Dalkeith a site of luxury and splendour by hiring William Byrne to design the magnificent 12-sided orangery, complete with Doric columns and a central chimney, a feature only found in the most fashionable houses of the time.
All of this glamour attracted many distinguished guests over the years. In 1745, Prince Charlie stayed at the palace during the Jacobite Rebellion. In 1822, King George IV visited to take in superlative architecture and grounds, preferring Dalkeith to the standard royal choice of Holyrood House. And in 1842, even Queen Victoria deigned to stop by. Dalkeith remained the Scots' seat up until 1914, when the family gave up the house. The palace is currently owned by the Buccleuch Living Heritage Trust and is used to host frequent art shows and exhibitions, a fate fitting for the home of such a cultural and creative clan.
The Scots' talent at forging powerful connections also helped them to acquire Drumlanrig Castle, another impressive and stately residence. Drumlanrig is situated just north of Dumfries and was built in the late 1600s in the Renaissance style, boasting 120 rooms, 17 turrets and 4 towers. Initially it belonged to Clan Douglas until it was passed on to Henry, the 3rd Duke of Buccleuch in 1810, due to strong links between the families forged by a number of profitable marriages. While Drumlanrig's architecture is arguably as impressive as that of Dalkeith, the Scott home is more notorious for its ghostly residents and beautiful bridges or fancy orangery.
Papers from the castle's archives and word of mouth suggest that there is not one, but 3 ghouls that haunt Drumlanrig. First is a headless lady who supposedly roams the corridors carrying her head in one hand and an ornate fan in the other.
Yeah.
Common myth says that this is the ghost of Lady Anne Douglas, though nobody knows how she came to lose her head. Interesting. The second otherworldly figure is perhaps even more unusual. There's one room in the castle that plays host to the spirit of a yellow monkey. Again, the story behind this animal is unknown, but many visitors swear that they have seen the ape scampering about the hallways at night, which is very bizarre.
Yeah, very bizarre.
Lastly, and perhaps most gruesomely, there is the Bloody Passage, a corridor in which a poor unknown soul was supposedly murdered. The story goes that the floors and walls still bear blood spatters which cannot be cleaned away, no matter how much the castle cleaners try. Do you think you're brave enough to plan a visit and risk bumping into one of these intriguing characters? We think the wealth of clan history and stunning house designs definitely make the risk worth it.
Our final site for the day is Bowhill House, located in Selkirk in the Scottish borders. It was originally built in 1708 by Lord Bowhill, John Murray. It was soon acquired by Clan Scott when Francis Scott, the 2nd Duke of Buccleuch, bought Bowhill for a gift for his son. If you can name all of the Dukes of Buccleuch, I'd be quite intrigued. The family worked hard over generations to make Bowhill a grand and imposing property, with Henry III Duke of Buccleuch planting a forest in the grounds in 1767, and Charles IV Duke building into the summer house in 1800, transforming it into a mansion complete with a gallery hall. All of their work paid off and the house gained an impressive reputation, with Sir Walter Scott himself even commemorating his famous poem, The Lay of the Last Minstrel, referring wistfully to the sweet Bowhill.
Bowhill also served as an army base during World War II and fell into a diminished state following the struggle of the war years. Luckily, a team of highly talented and committed conservators and volunteers worked hard to repair and preserve the house, and now many of its treasures can still be seen and admired. Large parts of the famous Buccleuch art collection are stored at Bowhill, including work by Canaletto, Gainsborough and Reynolds. I said that right? There's also a display of stunning 18th century hand-painted Chinese wallpaper and numerous miniatures. The grounds and the house are open for the public to visit, so if you're interested in connecting with your Scots ancestors or just having the pleasure of seeing one of Scotland's greatest art collections, we'd recommend a trip.
Now I'd like to tell you about some of the famous members of the clan, an area where Clan Scott is undeniably blessed. The Scots family history is remarkably rich with intriguing tales of wizardry and the paranormal. Michael Scott, born in 1175, was known as a wizard of Balwearie. He studied mathematics, philosophy and theology at University of Oxford before beginning a rather unconventional career. He was supposedly headhunted by Frederick II, the Holy Roman Empire, to be his personal astrologer. Very weird thing of the time, no? Mm-hmm. Scott liked to make it known to the Emperor due to his extensive travels through Europe, where he gained vast cultural knowledge of many countries and became fluent in numerous languages. He used these skills to work as a translator and completed a lot of highly impressive translations.
His love for travel was not limited to Europe, however, he developed a particularly strong interest in Arabic-speaking countries and started to dress in traditional Arab clothes and study Arabic literature. There are many tales about his supernatural powers, one of the most legendary being the story of how he predicted his own death. The story goes that Scott foresaw that he would be killed by a small stone falling on his head, so he started to wear a protective hat at all times. Supposedly, one day he was taking mass, so took off his hat and was immediately struck on the head by a falling stone. Shortly after, he became ill and died in exactly the manner that he had foreseen. Nonetheless, even after his death, Michael remained a figure of fascination for many, including fellow clan member, iconic writer Sir Walter Scott. Walter seemed to be drawn to the supposed wizard and wrote of him often, immortalising his magic deeds and charismatic nature.
In his 1805 poem, The Lay of the Last Minstrel, he described Michael's international power with a tone of breathless admiration. In these far climes, it was a lot to meet the wondrous Michael Scott, a wizard of such dreaded fame, that when in Salamanca's cave, he listed his magic wand to wave, and bells would ring in Notre Dame.
Sir Walter also created even more mythology around the wizard by claiming that he was buried alongside his magic books near a cross in Melrose Abbey, although the real circumstances around his burial are decidedly murky, and it's unclear if he was ever laid to rest in Scotland at all. It is heartening to see how far clan loyalty stretches, with the great writer doing so much to commemorate and celebrate his fellow Scot.
Of course, Walter himself isn't short on admiration, and is arguably the clan's most famous member. Sir Walter Scott, 1st Baronet, was a Scottish novelist, playwright, poet and historian. He was born in 1771, yet many of his works, most notably Ivanhoe and The Lady of the Lake, remain part of Western literary canon to this day. He made a tentative step into the literary world in the 1790s by translating German work into English, before gaining traction as a popular poet in the early 1800s, publishing 5 long narrative poems and many shorter ones between the years of 1805 and 1817. He built such an impressive reputation that in 1813 he was offered the title of Poet Laureate, but declined, viewing himself as far superior to the previous laureates, who he spurned as a succession of poetasters who churned out conventional and obscurious odes on royal occasion. His talent seemed to outweigh his task.
Despite his achievements as a poet, his best known work today is arguably the novel Ivanhoe. Written in 1820, it was a brave deviation from Scott's normal style, as it was set in England in the Middle Ages, rather than a more recent setting in Scotland. It became loved for its mix of high drama, chivalry and romance, and is broadly seen as a timeless classic. Scott died aged 61 in his home country of Scotland in 1832, but he has continued to influence authors across the globe, including many famous names such as Balzac, Dostoevsky, Flaubert, Tolstoy, Mark Twain, Virginia Woolf and countless more.
Another lesser-known Scot has had a grand impact on education and culture within Scotland, but in a very different way. Sir George Gilbert Scott, born on the 13th of July 1811, was brilliant and sought-after architect who was the mind behind the University of Glasgow's main campus building. George was the son of a reverend and grandson of a renowned biblical commentator, Thomas Scott. He had a high-flying start to his architectural career, working as an assistant to Henry Roberts, who designed the iconic London site, Fishmongers Hall. He went on to complete his first independent building in 1833, designing a vicarage for his father, before entering a highly productive phase starting in 1835, when he planned over 40 workhouses for the poor in 10 years.
However, his most iconic work came about after he was inspired to take part in the Gothic revival, starting by designing the Martyrs' Memorial in Oxford in 1841, which was intended to honour 3 Protestants who were executed during Queen Mary's reign. In 1849, he was awarded the highly prestigious role of architect to Westminster Abbey, and by 1858 he had become so renowned that he was commissioned to design a cathedral on the other side of the world in Christchurch, New Zealand. In 1864, Scott moved nearer to home again when he was awarded the commission to design a new building for the University of Glasgow. The original building was from 1630 and was located on the city's main street, which became run down and cramped following the Industrial Revolution, prompting the university to seek new grounds.
Scott pinpointed the West End as a perfect new spot, and by 1866 he had fully formed plans to present to the university. Over 100 of these plans are now held by the University of Glasgow's archives and special collections. You can arrange a visit to view them yourself if you're interested in 19th century Gothic architecture or want to connect with an old Scot ancestor.
Our final famous face for today is much more modern. Sir Ridley Scott is an English filmmaker who has made a big splash in Hollywood. He was born in 1937 in South Shields and was influenced by the dramatic landscapes he grew up in. While he sowed the seeds for his film career in his youth, becoming fascinated with sci-fi and fantasy, he started his working life as more of an artist than a filmmaker. He studied at the Royal College of Art in London and landed a job with the BBC as a trainee set designer after graduating. However, it wasn't long before they recognised his directorial talent, and in 1965 he was directing episodes of a variety of TV shows for the station.
He kicked off his film career in 1977 directing a period drama called The Duelists, and the brilliance was quickly acknowledged as it was nominated for the main prize at the Cannes Film Festival and won Best Debut Film title. From there, he went on from strength to strength, working on numerous iconic films including Gladiator, Alien and Blade Runner. He has been awarded many accolades, including the BAFTA Fellowship for Lifetime Achievement, a Golden Globe, and even a knighthood presented by the late Queen Elizabeth II in 2003. It's evident that Clan Scott can claim a flair for creativity.
We could talk about Clan Scott all day, but sadly we're running out of time in this episode. Before we go though, we need to tell you a little about our favourite thing here at ScotlandShop, Tartan. If you're looking for a Scot tartan, you won't struggle for choice. We stock 20 variations in red, orange, green, blue, purple and even black and white. You'll have no trouble finding one that will suit you. We offer a wide range of products from ribbons to kilts to caps, so take a look today and connect with your ancient clan ancestors.
We hope you've enjoyed this whistle-stop tour through the history of Clan Scott. If you'd like to find out more about the clan, pay a visit to our newly updated clan page on our website, as well as our blog posts. You can also test your knowledge on all things Clan Scott with our quiz. To stay updated on all our clan content, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, email newsletter and social media.